Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Horns Down podcast, Thrown Down, joined by my guy Preston Grant at the PG Show. PG, what's up, man? Tell everybody where they can find you and everything that you have in store for them in these next few days, few weeks, whatever.
Yeah, what's up? What's up? I'm excited to be here. It's we got the NBA tipping off tonight, so get to add that to the plethora of college football games we get to see for the rest of the season. So, but y'all can find me, the PG Show, all one word on YouTube, Apple, Google, or Spotify. You guys can also find me the PG Show _ at Twitter. We've got a lot of good content coming in. Got the wedding out of the way, so I can actually push out this content again. Not, I was in the wedding, so had to take a little bit of time off, but I'm back. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be back at the football games in Norman. Had to miss it this past week. Heard it was a good environment. Heard the fans were fired up. OU got the win. So I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. So, with that being said, the Sooners picked up a big win of sorts. I guess if you just think about the past few weeks, how the seasons went, they picked up a big win against not the Kansas of old, but the Kansas of new, or at least what they're trying to do moving forward, right? So, with that being said, definitely excited about what I saw out there. Even though the score was ended up being 52-42, definitely saw some promising things out there from the offense and the defense. Defense just has to find more consistency, but we'll talk about that here soon. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and start with the offense first. Just a couple of things I want to note first, PG. Offense clicked the first two drives, and from then on, it was just, it was a beautiful thing to see. We saw Gabriel being accurate. I think Gabriel finished. Let's see, Gabriel. He looked great early. He had a couple of woes, a couple of things that kind of popped up. I think he finished with over 400 yards passing, right?
Yes, this was one of his better games of the season. Dylan Gabriel went 29-42, 403 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception.
Yeah. No, so with that and the interception, I don't necessarily know, was that his fault or was that Mims' fault? I've heard kind of mixed reviews that hey, he was just throwing to the spot, and then I've heard people say that hey, Mims was kind of off the route just a tad bit. So either way, it's one pick, it's first pick of the year, 7 games into the season. I think that's pretty good, right? So Eric Gray looked great. And there hasn't been too many times that we've said that. He's looked solid all year, obviously, and he's been one of the better players on his team, but he looked great out there. Definitely liked what I saw for some of the younger players, especially Javonte Barnes. You got to look at him and say, hey, there are some yards he left on the field, but at the same time, you feel really good. The game is really starting to slow down for him. As far as Levy, I thought Levy called the best game that he's called all year. At one point, I think he finished 16 of 19 on third down. That was pretty much for me the biggest difference, the key difference in this game was the fact that you were so efficient on third down. PG, I'll be quiet now and I'll let you give us your thoughts on what you saw out there on Saturday.
Yeah, so I got to go back and I got to watch the game today while I was working, and I agree. The interception, I think you could say it was on both their parts, right? I do think it was maybe a little bit more on Marvin Mims just not being in the right spot. But you would expect something like that, especially after Dylan Gabriel's been out for 7 quarters with an injury, right? You would expect chemistry to be a little messed up. And it doesn't look like it's been quite there between Mims and Dylan Gabriel yet. I would expect Mims to, if he's not a first rounder this year, to potentially come back and try to up his draft stock, because with the whole offseason with Dylan Gabriel, you would expect Marvin Mims and Dylan Gabriel to have that connection. I think Theo Weiss probably leaves, so I think Marvin Mims could probably take full advantage of that if he wants to stay. But we're not talking about who's going to stay and who's not. But I was really impressed with the offensive line this week. And I've actually said this for the past couple of weeks. The offensive line has actually been playing really well since the start of the season, when you really didn't see them play too great, but then you saw flashes where they could be great. They've really seemed to be gelling and meshing together. they still have a couple injuries, nagging injuries on the offensive line. And unfortunately for them, it really hasn't been able to show how good they are because they've had some lackluster quarterback play in the absence of Dylan Gabriel. And so these past couple weeks, we really haven't been able to just see how dominant that offensive line has been. Because I feel like the running game, our running backs are pretty good, and they can make up for any potential mistakes. And so I think we're putting a lot of credit on the running backs, maybe not giving the offensive line enough credit for their run blocking. But this is going to be an offensive line where I wouldn't be surprised to see two guys go to the NFL this year. We have two seniors on the team. It's Chris Murray and I want to say, I think it's Anton Harrison. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would,
Yeah.
I would expect probably both of them to go to the league this year. Now, do I think that they should stay? Yes, 100%. I think they should stay. I think Wanye should probably even stay. I would think we might even see him potentially try to leave. I think it would help them out a lot in their growth because we've seen it with Oklahoma offensive linemen. The longer they stay at Oklahoma, the better their draft stock gets. I mean, look at Creed Humphrey, Orlando Brown, those guys, right? Their draft stock improved dramatically. So it's going to be interesting to see just how good this offense can be. And I think it starts at that offensive line. If this offensive line can continue to be consistent like they have over the past 3 or 4 weeks, I think you start to see an Oklahoma offense get to what we've seen over the past couple of years, where they can get out, they can score quickly, and now you're going to be able to see them take control of a game late and be able to run that clock down.
I think that. No, I'll go back to your point on the offensive line. Offensive line has been solid. They've been honestly kind of quietly one of the more consistent units on your team or at least these past few games, right? I mean, even against Texas, I mean, they can only execute what they're being coached to do, right, during that game. One of the things I'll kind of just have a little bit of pushback. I don't think you're going to see a mass exodus. I think you're going to see some players potentially do some things, enter the transfer portal, or maybe try to jump and declare. But I think that this team, for the most part, even with Mims, I think it's a strong chance that you see a lot of these guys return, and you have the core of your team come back with some really, really good additions via the transfer portal, and then obviously with our recruiting class as well. But man, just to go back to Saturday's game, coming in, you knew that Kansas defense was pretty good, was decent. It is above average, right? But you also knew that their passing defense was obviously it's kind of ranks at the bottom, right? So you were able to take advantage of that team, and you were able to scheme really well. And like I said, it was a hell of a game called by Levy. You got to see a lot of different things with the screens or whatnot. If Levy liked something, you kind of actually saw his offense in motion because he went back to those plays. He kept you in that same personnel group. He said, if you're going to be lazy, we're going to go right at you. A couple of things that popped up, like I said, just a couple of woes. Wanted to connect with Marvin Mims on that one slant that he was running, or I think it was a slant. You want to make sure that you're he was more decisive today. That day, Gabriel was way more decisive, definitely like that. But there's still some things in this offense that they can improve, and that's the scary part. Is that, hey, we're still talking about them being able to possibly, expand this offense and be even more explosive. I think one of the things that I was kind of missing was just kind of some of those more explosive plays, which we had some medium passes, but we didn't really stretch the field outside of that. I think that Gavin Freeman catch. But at the same time, man, I'm really excited for what I see from the offense. I think going forward, the question is especially coming off a bye week, you should be able to sharpen everything that you've done off this Kansas game and be able to go into the Iowa State game feeling pretty good. If you play simple and you just play within yourselves, you're going to be fine. What do you think about the offense going forward for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, as long as Dylan Gabriel's at the helm, we saw it, right? This offense is going to be just fine. Dylan Gabriel came in there and just lit it up. And I want to make this comparison, and I'm going to say this again later today, but, everybody's wanting to hate on Dylan Gabriel. And I think the hate needs to slow down because I'll pull these. I pulled this statistic last night. I'm gonna give it for you. So Dillon Gabriel in 5 games and 1 quarter has thrown for 1,618 yards, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception, and has a 65.1 completion percentage. Now, the guy that everybody was so high on last year, Caleb Williams, I get it. He's a true freshman. And let's be honest, he does have more potential than Dillon Gabriel. Last year, through 5 games, his 5 starts, not 5 games. I did his 5 starts because that's probably more fair. He threw for 1,229 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 68.8% completion percentage. I look at that and I go, I'd probably take Dillon Gabriel. He doesn't make as many mistakes. And, you know, at the end of the day, he seems to be able to connect with the receivers a little bit more. So, I mean, the only thing I think Caleb's really got on him is the completion percentage by 3% and then 1 touchdown. That's it.
Yeah.
So fans just need to keep that in mind. Again, he doesn't have the potential that Caleb Williams has, but he's still pretty damn good.
I think the thing for me with Dillon Gabriel is that we're kind of, I think as fans, we're kind of in between these 2 quarterbacks, right? Obviously, we've seen, you know, Baker, Kyler, hell, even Jalen Hurts in spurts throughout his season, his long season here at OU. But I think that we're all going off of what we saw last year with Caleb, and then we're kind of starting to think of that Landry Jones territory. Statistically, Landry Jones may be the best quarterback to ever play at OU.
Oh, statistically, he is the best quarterback ever at OU.
But eye test, he didn't pass the eye test for a lot of people. He wasn't clutch. You know, a lot of people still are indifferent about Landry Jones. Respect to him, but at the same time, people are indifferent about him because a lot of people say he put up gaudy numbers. I mean, he put up a lot of numbers, but at the same time, where was the clutch factor? Where were the big time games? Where were championships to kind of show that, right? So that was kind of the knock on him. So my whole thing is that Dillon Gabriel, I think that with a year under his belt and kind of understanding all the pressure that comes with this, and then actually clicking with his wide receivers and building even more camaraderie this offseason, and then getting some of those freshmen in with Petaway and the Evans kid as well, when you're getting more speed out there, and then you're hoping that a guy like Gibson can take that next step. A guy like Nick Anderson can get healthy and finally see the field. You're wanting to see that. You know, we're going to miss Braden Willis next year, who is going to get drafted going towards Sooner Cowboys points, and I think he's definitely going to be somebody that gets drafted. May not be a high round, but at the same time, it's going to be a quality pick up for a lot of teams. But at the same time, like I said, I think the core of your team returns, and I think you make a lot of great additions to that. I just, when Dillon Gabriel, I will say this though, when Dillon Gabriel is on, it's hard to stop. It is hard to stop, and it's been that way since UCF. I was about to let you go, PG.
Oh, yeah, no, he is definitely hard to stop. The thing about Dillon Gabriel is, and I think a lot of people have to remember this, he came from UCF with lesser talent, and I almost wonder how hard it is to step into step onto a team like Oklahoma, where you have 4- and 5-star talent, high 4-star talent at the wide receiver position, and what it's like to adjust to something like that. And remember, Dillon Gabriel is coming off a pretty significant injury last year. So this whole season, I expected Dillon Gabriel to play with some rust. But again, like what I'm pointing out, it's also different playing with this kind of talent. You would expect Dillon Gabriel to have a harder time because he's got to be able to get used to super fast wide receivers. And, you know, I think that's the point is I think he thinks they're a little bit farther down the field than they really are. Chunks of the ball. And again, that's going to come with time. It's going to come with better chemistry. You know, this season is really, and I think we set too high of expectations this season for this team. This season is more of a season for us to figure out who on this team wants to be here and who doesn't want to be here, and who's going to try hard and who doesn't. You've heard a lot of rumors about Brent Venables already trying to move people out of the program, players and coaches and staff that are slipping into old habits, and they're not putting forth their best effort. They're not giving 110% on the field.
And I expect to see some changes in this offseason. I expect to see some. I don't expect to see some things that are drastic or things that we can't just sit here and calculate ourselves. But at the same time, I mean, I think everybody is or everybody should have kind of heard those reports about him stopping practice and basically just saying, hey, if you don't want to be here, if you're not a part of this, if you're not ready for this, then hey, I will help you. I will give you the best recommendation. We got to circle the wagon. I mean, that's what I was saying last week in my State of the Oklahoma address. Got to circle the wagon. That's all that you got to do. The people who want to stay and actually be the foundation to build that platform for somebody, for the next team to launch off of. That's what we're looking for. This season's not a wrap. There's still a lot of hope in this season. There's still a lot of things to look for with this team in this season. I want to become bowl eligible. I want to win out every game. I feel like that's still on the table. You're about to play outside of Oklahoma State, which I'll give them that this year. They're a good team. Outside of Oklahoma State, you're going to have a lot of tough games. West Virginia is going to play you their best game. They're not a good team. Baylor is going to play their best game, obviously, in that defense. Offensively, they're kind of in the same atmosphere as like an Iowa State, where it's just kind of like it's up and down, but at the same time, they're still going to be able to put up points and move the ball, right? And then obviously Texas Tech is kind of that just wild card team. You never really know what you're going to get with Texas Tech, right? But you have a chance to finish this year strong, go to a bowl game, get you a win, possibly finish 10-3. I mean, I know I'm being highly optimistic, but I'm just saying you all possibly could finish 10-3, possibly could finish 9-4, 9-3, or whatever the case may be. Hopefully not 8-5. But at the same time, there are building blocks there for us to be able to build off of going into the next season. So you want to see this team finish strong with the guys who really want to be here.
I think they go 4-1 in this stretch. In reality, I think their best chance to lose a game is Oklahoma State. I think every other team coming forward is beatable. At the beginning of the season, I looked at Baylor and thought that's a tough test for Oklahoma. But shoot, Baylor's 3 games lost. And here's the thing: this team needs to look at it going into the bye week. A Big 12 championship is not out of reach for the Sooners. It's really not. It looks bad when you look at it. But here's the thing. If TCU just loses a bunch of games, Oklahoma really controls their own destiny here. And how awesome would it be to see Oklahoma run back up with Texas in the Big 12 championship game? I think that'd be awesome. But Kansas has 2 conference losses, so they just need 1 more. If Oklahoma State loses to us, I expect them to potentially lose to Texas, so that would put them at 3 losses. That gives us a tiebreaker there. Kansas State's going to lose 2 more games. At this point, you're just looking at TCU and going, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?"
You need some chaos, and guess what? This is the league that it happens in. So the whole thing is you just got to win out. Just win out and just be one of the teams. Just be one of the teams that's even trying to be in the conversation, because that's what you want. You want the narrative to change about this team. You want the narrative to be, look, first 3 games, terrific. Next 3 games, terrible. Finish the season really strong. I feel good about where this program is at. I feel good about Brent Venables as a head coach, and I feel good about what they're about to look like next year. I think if they're able to keep the core of this team, that's all that you want. That's what you want, Kirk Herbstreit. That's what you want, Joel Klatt. That's what you want all of them. That's what you want all of them to be saying towards the end of the season. You just want to be one of the hottest teams coming into next year. That way you can just keep going off of that. So with that being said, let's move on to the defense, okay? So, again, I'll start this off by saying, PG, the score was 52-42. Easily could have been probably a 3-touchdown victory if you get some key stops.
Or if you don't turn the ball over 3 times.
Don't turn the ball over 3 times. That first touchdown, That was just a play that the wide receiver made. I mean, they were actually in the right position. Maybe you could have went for the interception, but at the same time, they were in the right position. I mean, it just was a, hey, we were there, we were doing everything right. I think one of the announcers, he said something that was pretty interesting. He said, I thought it was a lack of talent. I thought it was just a lack of effort out here. But no, he said, I went back and watched the games. There's effort all over the field. They're going and doing and showing up. But the problem is that it's a lack of understanding the assignment. It's a lack of just being in the right place at the right time, knowing when some of these things are going. So
which you expect. You expect that with a first-year head coach and defensive coordinator coming in.
No, go ahead, PG.
Oh no, that's all I was gonna say. Like to that point you said, you expect with Brent Venables coming in and bringing this complicated defensive scheme in, you would expect to see there be some of that miscommunication and things like that. And that's where I have really given David Ugwoegbu a lot of praise this season because, and I know a lot of people are not high on him, but if you watch what he does on the field outside of what shows up on the stat sheet, he is a key piece to this defense. He's placing guys on the field where they're supposed to be. Guys are coming to him and asking him on the field, hey, where am I supposed to be at? And I think, one, that shows his leadership, but two, like that just shows how smart he is and being able to understand Brent Venables' defense. Now, again, I think next year you expect it to look a lot better, year two of it, especially if OU is able to go in and dip into this defensive line class and just get some elite level talent, which I know we supposedly have lost out on the David Hicks guys. I don't think that's true. I've talked to a couple people. I don't think that's true. But if they're able to go in, dip into the transfer portal, you've got a bunch of defensive linemen out there at James Madison. James Madison, I mean, their run defense is incredible. Go up there, take a couple of their guys. Same thing. I think Albany has a good defensive tackle from what I hear, or whatever. Like, go out there, transfer portal, take some of those guys, dip into the class. I think this defense will look much better this year in his second year with Brent Venables being able to get these kids ready to be able to understand his scheme. Even though I do think Ted Roof needs to go, or at least he needs to move back to an analyst role, because I do think he's a good linebackers coach. I do think something needs to happen with him where he's not calling the plays. Either BV needs to call the plays, or he needs to call the plays for a couple of years and then hire a good defensive coordinator like what Ohio State did. Oh, you have the money, Oklahoma. Well, go take a good defensive coordinator from somebody and pay him a bunch of money.
Well, I mean, you've heard rumblings about him being a little bit more hands-on than what he's been at earlier points in the season. Just kind of going back to the field, though, I will say this right here. There were some really good things that happened. Hey, we got 2 interceptions. Deshaun White probably had one of his best games as a Sooner. I mean, I'm just gonna be real. He's probably had one of his better games as in an Oklahoma Sooner uniform, right? CJ Colden is a guy that you're like, hey, what's going on here? That seems to be kind of a bright spot on this defense. Key Lawrence looked like Key Lawrence of old. He was all over the field. He was making plays in the run game. He was making plays, breaking up passes all time. I mean, he saw the field. That's the Key Lawrence that we saw. And his talent, in my opinion, was able to overshadow anything that Broyles may or may have not done during the game. But like I said, man, I was excited about what I saw. Still some lapses out there, man. You can't have those. Like, literally guys just running wide open down the field through the middle. I mean, you're running zone when you're running zone concepts, and then there's guys, they're doing those 2 routes right there where they're basically hiding that guy underneath the actual, orbit route or deep cross. I mean, there's nothing those are you're just scheming guys open at that point. But at the same time, there were a couple of plays that their tight end was able to I'm like, how, why? So third down efficiency for them wasn't the greatest, but at the same time, they still converted way too many third and longs from me. I think that When we get a Billy Bowman back, that's a good point. But when we get Billy Bowman back, and if Key Lawrence is able to carry over this Kansas performance over to the next games, it's going to be pretty scary for them. But what would I say?
Well, I would expect for us to get Billy Bowman back after the bye week. I feel like if you're Oklahoma, you're going into the bye week and you feel like you're pretty healthy on the whole, especially playing 7 weeks and not having a bye week in between there. I feel like they're doing pretty good. So I would expect to see Billy Bowman back either for Iowa State or for the Baylor game. I would hope it's for Iowa State because Iowa State's defense is going to cause some problems for the Oklahoma offense. I don't think you're going to see a 50-point performance. So I feel like, the Oklahoma defense is going to need Billy Bowman back there, especially with this quarterback. I can't think of it. Hunter Decker for Iowa State, who I think is really, really good. Yes, RSJ looked good too. I don't know why he wasn't playing earlier in the season. This man is all over the field. He's making big plays. I think he'll get more playing time as the season progresses because he's going to be a starter next year.
Before we move on to Iowa State, I want to put out Jimmy Satterfield. He said, "Hey, RSJ looked good too. RSJ definitely looked good. He looks athletic at that position. Definitely excited to see what's going to happen with him. I like some of the guys that we have in the secondary. To be honest with you, I like a lot of them. I think Trey Morrison has been good in spurts for us. The emergence of C.J. Colden has been a bright spot on the team. Obviously, I just said that. Billy Bowman, Key Lawrence. I mean, those are my guys. And I look for them to have big seasons next year, but I look for them to finish the season strong. Hopefully, we get Billy Bowman back for the Iowa State game. But moving on to that, we'll talk about that just briefly. Iowa State's defense will present their troubles for us. They're gonna play that 3-3-5. They're gonna mix it up a little bit, but at the same time, it's a pretty good defense and they're stout. And they were able to do things against Texas that we weren't able to do. They are basically sitting here saying, "Hey, we're one bad call from beating Texas." And I'm not saying that Texas is the bar, but what I'm saying is this right here is that they were able to go in there and keep the game close and get it down and basically say, "Hey, you're going to have to work this field and you're going to have to take it all the way to the fourth quarter to beat us. This isn't going to be just a blowout like everybody's thinking." I think one of the like I said, it honestly, it was just a really bad call. I mean, that was targeting all the way. That was targeting all the way. But hey, Texas won, right?
Can't play the what if game, but yeah, no, it should have been a targeting call. I look at that. This is the problem I have with targeting. How many times do we see a play like that and go, "That's targeting. That's what we're told is targeting," and then they don't call it. But then you get a call where it's like, how did they call that targeting? That doesn't look like it. Like that meets almost in none of the criteria. It makes no sense. There needs to be more consistency with this targeting call, but it would have changed the game because Iowa State, I believe, would have scored on that drive, ran some more clock, and I think Texas would have lost. I will say this. That is a game that Texas historically goes and loses, and it's probably not even close.
Yeah.
So I think Texas has got some good things going because even after the Alabama game, right, it's not like they just laid down and died. So for Oklahoma fans, what does that mean? Well, Texas is going to be probably our competition and rival next year, right? They're going to be in that Big 12 championship game, and they're going to give us some trouble. But that's really good for us.
Not so fast.
I think that's really
fast.
Chris. I was talking about this yesterday with Nino and Ty, and I said that's really good for Oklahoma fans because what's going to happen next year if you get 2 one-loss Oklahoma and Texas teams, one of them's a Big 12 champion, and they're sitting there 4-5 in the college football playoffs. I think the committee takes the opportunity and puts OU and Texas in the college football playoffs together.
Let's see how this season finishes out because K-State, Baylor, and K-State and Baylor definitely have, they want to have a word with them.
Oklahoma State
do this week's. this week as well. I still think that Texas is a work in progress. Like I said, they're one bad call. His knee was down, and that was targeting. I mean, it was clear targeting. But like I said, they won, so we'll let them have that. But at the same time, let's just see how the season plays out because, hey, we all thought OU was okay, 10-2, 11-1, all the rest of that stuff. Let's not gas them up because look, they got to show more than that. You know, the fact of the matter is that through 2 years of the Sark experience, as much as they want to talk about us, Sark is 10-9. 10-9. Let's see how he finishes this season.
The thing is, though, and I think you can admit this because we ain't got no Texas people on here to bark back at us and go on some long rant. But I do think Sark is changing the culture a little bit. I'm curious to see now that we're starting to see some success from Texas, especially in the recruiting trail. And what I mean by success in the recruiting trail is they're recruiting the right guys. They're recruiting the right position. They're not just getting a bunch of 5-star guys that they don't need at positions that they don't need, right? Like they're going out there and they're getting 5-star offensive linemen by droves, right?
Yeah.
Can the boosters stay away from that program? Because I feel like it's going in the right direction. But if the boosters start to step in, like what we've seen, this thing could go down south real quick.
I don't even necessarily think it's the boosters. I think the problem is for Texas is that, look, you're sitting here saying, oh, they're going to be in the Big 12 championship. They're losing Roshan. They're losing Bijan. They're obviously going to get Nayor back, and they're going to hype that up. They're going to most likely lose Overshown on that defense. They still don't have a significant pass rush. Still a lot of holes on that team. There's still a lot of football to be played out there. So, with that being said, we'll see.
Yeah, they got that Cedric Baxter Jr. coming in at running back next year.
I mean, I
really like him.
They have the blue. They had that kid with the last name Blue, running back Blue. They have the Ford kid or whatever. I mean, they got some running backs or Jonathan Brooks, excuse me. They have some kids that they're pretty excited about that I've heard about all season that I haven't seen. Well, I guess Keelan Robinson may be the guy. We'll have to see. But moving back to going back to Iowa State, I will say what Chicken is saying is accurate. It's extremely accurate. That Iowa State quarterback, Hunter Decker, is tough as hell. If you ask me who he reminds me of the Tulane quarterback. He's a guy that will sit there and get his ass handed to him, but get up every time and still try to fight back. And I mean, you got to love that about the kid. So, I mean, I'm eager to see how we do because hell, if you go back and watch that Texas game, it looks like their wide receivers. He was just throwing some stuff up at some points over the middle, and their wide receivers was snagging everything.
Well, yeah, when you got Hutchinson, why would you not do that?
I mean, hell, it wasn't just Hutchinson; it was everybody. But their run game is not that good. Their offensive line, I think, is still a point of weakness on that team, and I think that if we could get a damn pass rush, that would help us an awful lot. Hopefully, Ethan Downs will be able to come back in the game. A lot of people thought he was going to have a big game against Kansas, but yeah.
Ethan Downs will come back. I actually hit his dad up this week or earlier about that. Asked if he was okay because it looked like he maybe had a concussion or something. He'll be back.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Iowa State's offense is not a slouch. Hutchinson is that guy. He's proved that he's going to make some money. He's going to be a Sunday. He's going to be playing on Sundays. I think the biggest thing that we have to do is just be consistent. Got to be consistent. And in those key drives when you're up there in Ames, because it's 11 a.m. game, but that crowd is going to be loud. They're going to be into the game because, like I tell some of my friends that are not OU fans, if there ever was a year that you want to get in all your jokes and that you want to try to go and beat up on OU, this is the year. You better do it now because I can tell you now, it's going to be night and day rather soon. And you're not going to see that. Max Duggan is not going to be running back out there. I think his eligibility is finally up. And Chandler Morris is a good quarterback, but you're not going to have Quentin Johnston. You're probably not going to have some of those guys. So the whole thing is you better make this season count because I can tell you now, when the Sooner Boys getting rolling, it's going to be hard to stop.
Shoot, and they can get in their jokes this year. They can get in their jokes this year, but the sad reality is any given week, OU is just better than almost outside of Texas. They can out talent everybody else in this league, everybody else.
Right.
And at some point or another, talent's got to play a factor, and talent can beat you. So they can get in their jokes all they want, but this OU team can, make them look like fools out there.
Hold on.
Don't go out there and give Oklahoma any ammo to go out there and just dominate you.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, this is Brent Venables. Eric, I heard Nick and Nino and Steven, they'll talk about where's the fire, where's this, where's that. I'm like, it never left. But when he starts destroying y'all, don't be up in a frenzy. Iowa State hasn't put so Sooner Cowboy says Iowa State hasn't put up that up a bunch of points this season. They really haven't, but you already know. I mean, let's be real. Like with them losing all that they lost, it's no. I mean, I really had no hope for that offense. I didn't think they would even be at this point where they're 3-4. Thought they would be mostly like 2-5, something like that.
Listen, Iowa State's not having a great season this year.
Yeah.
Well, I say a great season. Their defense is having a great season because let's be honest, that defense has pretty much almost kept them 7-0. Their 4 games that they've lost have been by 1 score or less.
We have to be efficient on third down. It's going to come down to that. We got to be able to move the ball, and we got to be able to sustain drives against the defense.
This Iowa State team next year is going to be damn good. This Iowa State team next year, and then for years to come, they're going to be damn good. They got a top 100 quarterback coming in JJ Cole. They've got numerous wide receivers coming in. Their offensive line's only going to get better. I am curious to see what they're going to do at the running back position because they haven't taken one in this class yet. I'm assuming they're probably going to go to the portal for that. But listen, after this year, this Iowa State team's not going to be a team to make fun of either because they're going to come for you. And Matt Campbell's always got his teams always ready to play every Saturday.
Yeah. And I agree with that last point that Carvin is making as far as Texas is always a great recruiter, but never been a good developer of players. And PG, that's what I'm kind of saying. I'm like, look, we gotta pump the brakes on that because I mean, look, when you've had 10 to 13 years of mediocrity like they've had, I got to see more consistency than just 1 year whenever you're thinking you're rolling out there with the prodigal son. We just got to see it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I just feel like they're doing the right things to be able to start building and be able to get us some consistency, right? They're bringing in top tier coordinators and analysts, right, to be able to help in some of those roles where they've been lacking in the past. That's my point. I feel like Texas is going in the right direction. We haven't seen the consistency, you're right, but they are doing the right things to go be a championship team.
I'll give them that. Sark has done a good job with that. Still got to see more though. More than a sample size. Like I said, 10-9 through his first few games. Through his first 2 seasons, still not impressed with it. Got to see more. Because that's the problem that I have with them talking all this noise. It's like, where are y'all going? I'm like, y'all have a trajectory for the Big 12, but y'all also have the same trajectory that you had last year to finish the season bad. So we'll see. But moving on to the next subject, I want to talk about a little bit of recruiting. So obviously, let's get the elephant in the room out. Colton Vasek. A lot of people are kind of growing skeptical about what his end goal or his final decision is going to be. Obviously Texas fans have been up in all of our chats talking about, oh, he's going to flip. He's going to flip. I heard nothing about that. Heard nothing about it. Even some of the sources that I tap into or I try to go and just read up on certain things, haven't heard anything about it. Now, yeah, he was there at the game. I mean, if that's the case, then you're kind of thinking with BV's policy, is he still committed or what's going on with that situation? I feel that unlike David Hicks, this is still I'm going to trust the staff. I think that we will still be able to get him. He will sign, and we will be fine. What are your
This is
thoughts
such
about
a this is
Vasquez?
such a weird situation because of who he is and where he's from, right? You got to think about it. He's from Austin, Texas. His dad's an alumni. They have season tickets. How many recruits do you go recruit that have season tickets for your rival, right? I agree. I don't think he's going to be a Sooner at the end of this. I really want him to because I think next to PJ Adebawore, he's probably one of the best edge rushers in this class. Like he is that talent. But if OU loses him, you're not in a bad spot because you still got Tahusili Akana, you still have David Hicks to go get, you still have Marcus Deal, you still have Caden McDonald. Like it's going to be fine, right? It's going to be fine. I don't think Vasek is going to Texas. I really don't because we've heard all the stuff. He doesn't want to be at Texas. He doesn't want to be in Austin. He wants to branch out and do his own thing. So, but it's going to be weird to see how the staff lets that policy float with Colton because when I was talking to somebody, and you know who I was talking to, Chris, but he did not get permission from the staff to go to that game.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it was unofficial, BV's policy applies to unofficial and official visits.
Really?
So I'll be curious to see how this all plays out because again, it's a different situation than like let's say David Hicks is committed to you and then goes to Texas, right? Completely different situation. So we'll see how this one turns out. He's got his own season tickets, so I'm not 100% sold, but I do think he's going to end up maybe at Oregon. Because it seems like Oregon is probably the next big push outside of Oklahoma.
Really? I haven't heard anything about Oregon. You think that is that something that's coming up?
Yeah, I definitely think that's something that's coming up. I mean, and Oregon's done it from us. I mean, they took that wide receiver. I can't think of his name, but they took that wide receiver from us too.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's a possibility. I don't think he's going to Texas. He's just there hanging out with friends and Arch. I mean, shoot, if I was a crew and Arch wanted me to come to the game, I'd go to the game with Arch, right?
Like I said, man, PG, I'm gonna trust the process. I'm gonna trust the staff. I think that in the end, we get the kid. I think that it is. I'm not gonna say it's a no-brainer, but I think that I just feel that the relationship is gonna matter a lot, and I think that he's gonna want to play for Chavis. He's going to want to play for Todd Bates. He's going to play for BV. I think that he understands that this is a great chance for him to come and be productive in his freshman year, possibly to be able to carve out some time. We need him. We need the kid. I mean, obviously, we can say we're going to go get some transfer portal, but we want to get elite talent on the edge for sure because you know me, I'm a big Reggie Grimes fan. And I like Ethan Downs as well, but at the same time, we got to get more talent on that edge rush because that's been something that's missing, or the consistency from that position. I think the talent is still there, but the consistency from that position has just been it hasn't been there.
You do, and
yeah.
Honestly, you've got Adebawore coming in, right? Who I think could be potentially a top 20 player by the time that this recruiting cycle's over. But then you've got Akana, who actually I think he's underrated in the class rankings. I think he's better than what he really is. And I think it's just because he's out in Hawaii. That's really it.
Yeah.
Or is it Utah? He's somewhere where he's not getting a lot of looks, right?
Yeah.
And so I think he's better than what
Utah.
he really is.
I want to say Utah.
He's from Hawaii. He might be in Utah though.
What I was going to say, moving on, like I said, PG thinks that he's going to flip. I say, hey, he's going to come to the good guys, right? Moving on, I would say the next player that I've heard a little bit about is Peyton Bowens. I've heard, honestly, it's 50-50, basically. That
it's a done deal.
It's a done deal? You think it's a done deal?
So he's dating, I can't remember who, his girlfriend's coming to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
His girlfriend's coming to Oklahoma. And I mean, why would you, or what, are you guys just going to break up? And I was talking to Ty and Nino about this yesterday. I said, I wonder how much money some of these girlfriends get funneled to these recruits because
now that's a good point, PG, but I will say if Texas A&M comes and says, hey, PG, we want to give you $15 million. I'm sure that you would probably tell your fiance, hey, look, this is a business decision. I hope you understand. I'll see you next month.
See, I can't say that because I have grown up in a really good situation, right? Like
Wow.
I've always been able to. I'm not saying like my parents lived the high life, but like
Yeah.
they were like like good middle class, right? And some of my other family you would consider upper class, and so I for me it's like if I have that talent of Peyton Bowen.
Yeah.
And even though Texas A&M comes to offers me, I go, okay, well, for me, it's about development because I know if I get developed right, I'm going to go to the league. The
Mhm.
problem is, and I pointed this out with so many of these players, is a lot of these guys don't really have anything. And so it's hard to be able to say that, I would do something different when I know, yes, like they're going to go take the money because they've never had that before. And they want
Yeah.
to be able to provide a good life, not for themselves, but also for their
Well,
family.
well,
And
also, I
so,
mean, some of these kids are. I mean, look at Malachi Nelson. I mean, some of these kids are coming from some pretty some families that are making some good money. But I mean, hell, look at Quinn. Look at Mullet Boy. Look at Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers went to Ohio State. Basically, took the check. I mean, that's all that he did. Let's just be honest.
yeah,
So,
but
I mean, you still look at. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Some of these kids are coming from these high middle class homes, but at the same time, somebody puts $15 million in front of you that your mom, your dad, your grandma, your brothers, your sisters, or whoever, cousins have never seen before. That's life changing money. That's generation. That's like generational wealth that you're about to receive. So, I mean, hell, I mean, to be honest with you, that's pretty much what it came down to for Hicks.
yeah, but
I
would you rather
mean,
take would you rather take $15 million or would you rather take, 3 or 4 million dollars, come to Oklahoma, play with all your friends, have
uh-huh.
your girlfriend in town, and still know you're going to be able to develop to go make more money in the future?
I'm going to say this: Texas A&M has still put some guys in the league, and this is what I'd have to say. Sooner Cowboys is probably saying the same thing that I'm saying. Bullshit talk. I'm just saying that money talks, bullshit walks. I mean,
Well, we'll just see where this next
I just
season
think that if it was that clear cut, we would have one. We would have David Hicks, and two, it wouldn't even be in the conversation that Texas A&M was there. But I don't think Texas A&M is a threat. I think that in the end, Bowen does come here to OU. But I'm just throwing out there that obviously they were able to come in late and shock everybody when they were able to basically drop a bag and get Hicks. So
listen, we keep acting like we've lost Hicks. I keep trying to tell y'all, just be patient. Hicks is still on Oklahoma. I've heard from some people he's still 90% Oklahoma. He's still chatting with a few people. Things
yeah,
are still happening. Listen, I don't think Texas A&M was David Hicks' choice.
the
So,
same, the same, the same thing with the Renault kid. A lot of people still think that you have a chance to get Renault.
oh no,
So
I don't think we have a chance with Renaud.
you
I
don't
don't think
think we
we
can
do.
get Renault?
No, because Renaud's biggest thing was development.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, who better to develop you on the defensive line than Nick Saban? I mean, realistically, like, I mean, I know BV
I'm
does it
just
well
saying,
too, but
Todd Bates, Pete Golding, and his crew. I don't know. So I'm gonna keep an eye out on that because here's my thing. I don't think that he's gonna shake up anything because that's not his style. But what I will say is this right here. I think that Pete Golding and Bill O'Brien are probably due for a few, not just one, but a few come to Jesus meetings. That's just my opinion.
no, Bill O'Brien's probably gone after this season. They're going to bring in Scott Frost. I think we know that. I don't know about Pete Golding, but I do think Nick Saban shakes it up a little bit and possibly brings in a couple more analysts or maybe some new coordinators. We'll see. I did some calculations on this class because I know everybody's probably wondering where that's going to land. Right? Let's just say let's say you get David Hicks. Let's say we get Peyton Bowen, and I'm high on David Hicks, so I won't put him in here. So say you get David Hicks. Let's say you get Peyton Bowen. You're getting Tahu Siliakana. You're getting Marcus Deal. You're getting Ryan Yates. You're getting Kaden McDonald. Now, remember, a couple months ago, we were talking about, is this defensive line class for Oklahoma safe? I mean, you'd be getting probably 3 true interior defensive linemen, and then you're getting. I took Visek out of this. I took Colton Visek out of this. You're looking at a composite score right now of 307.44, which right now would put you at number 2. And I feel like Georgia and Ohio State are starting to wrap up their recruiting classes, but Oklahoma at 28 commits. So Oklahoma could finish 1, 2, or probably not 1, but 2 or 3 this year. So I think the recruiting is fine. I think people need to calm down a little bit. I would expect to see Petaway as a 5-star by the end of this. Caden Green, he's a little bit farther away, but he can still potentially make it happen. This class is looking great. It's the best class Oklahoma has ever had, which is saying a lot because I felt like Lincoln put up some good classes, but I guess that was just the eye candy there. I think we're going to be fine, and I think people will be very happy with who we get and don't get in this class.
Yeah, no, and I think that this class is going to be great, and I think that 2024 is going to be even better, to be quite frank with you.
Hey, and I'm still on the mindset that people are going to transfer from Texas A&M because I'm still convinced that Texas A&M is still not going to have a good season, that they're probably going to have 6 or 7 losses. And I still think a guy like Lebbeus Overton could decide to transfer to Oklahoma because he really wanted to be here. And that one was the bag because we know Oklahoma put out a big bag for him and Texas A&M had to drop one bigger.
Now, was it Overton who wanted? I think Overton wanted to play DN, right? And a lot of people wanted him to play inside. And I think that was
that was Dindy. That was Gabriel Download. Dindy. Yeah, but remember he was a Grinch guy, which I would expect. I actually have him going to USC this offseason. And then I potentially have Nolan going to Alabama. I think Texas A&M is going to have a mass exodus on their defensive line.
Now, here's the problem with that, and I'm no way trying to defend Texas A&M, but earlier this year, Ty and all of us have talked about it. I almost called them ATM. A&M has basically set up the way they set up their NIL deals is that those are multi-layered deals that go every year. So if you're leaving that, you're leaving all of that money on the table. So they're trying to make it hard for these 5-star freshmen and guys like that. Because to be honest with you, hell, I think that, he's playing obviously, but I think the 5-star wide receiver would probably tell you that he's frustrated. He doesn't know who his quarterback is going to be week in and week out. But I don't know. I think our class is going to be amazing. I think our class is going to stick through it. And like I said, I think that we get Bowens. I'm hopeful that we can flip. We can get Hicks back into the and get him to sign. And I'm thinking that Vasic is going to stay a student. I think that he's going to go through with his commitment, and he's going to come up here and he's going to ball out. That's just my opinion. So I guess we'll see. December is the early sign period, so we'll see exactly what's going to happen here in about a month and a half, right?
Yeah, about a month and a half.
Yep.
Yeah, so, I'm excited. I'm excited for early and National Signing Day. This is gonna be one for the books, Oklahoma. It's gonna be one for the books.
And like Carver said, we definitely got to get some big dogs on the defensive line. And I think we have some of that. It's just the fact that, like I said, it just hasn't been any consistency on this defense. You just want to see them do a lot of things better. But Kansas gives you hope. It gives you more optimism, right? You're just optimistic about what this defense can do. Because in different spurts, you are like, hey, we're playing. We're being gap sound. We're showing the gap integrity that we haven't shown all season. We're being physical. We're actually tackling. Like, what the hell? It's just those mental cues. We're always on some of those drives that they're scoring. We're always one play away from just making something happen, whether it be a turnover or just be the right play to get them off the field. We're always one play away, and it's always And that's even broad in a sense. I think we're just somebody's not doing their job on the defense. It's like we're not 11 strong out there, right? It's like we're 10 or we're 9 strong. So you just want to see those lapses go away. It's not going to happen overnight, but you just kind of got to build a consistency. And that's the part of it. That's a part of finishing this season strong. You have to finish it the right way.
Yeah, and that's again, I was talking about the A&M transfers. I don't think they're going to finish strong. I think there's some talks about Weigman starting at quarterback for Texas
Yeah.
A&M next week or this week at South Carolina. But I mean, outside of South Carolina, they're definitely losing to Ole Miss. They're probably losing to LSU. Then I mean, your toss-ups, I guess, are at Auburn and at South Carolina, and then you're going to beat UMass. So Texas A&M's got quite a few. I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see OU dip into their defensive line class this year. I know they're trying to make it hard, but here's the deal: are you going to fire your head coach and pay him $90 million, or are you just going to let a player go and lose a couple million?
We shall see. You never know in the world of Texas A&M. They do things a little bit different down there. We lost to.
We lost to Battle on Saturday and won.
I don't get what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't get it either. Maybe I'm missing it.
I mean, look, I'll go to Carvin's point, and then we'll close it out this way. If you guys got any questions or anything like that, go ahead and just ask away, and we'll ask these for the next few minutes or so. Oh, he said we lost a turnover battle and won. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
That's good. And like we said, if Oklahoma doesn't turn the ball over and pretty much 3 freaky turnovers, like it's probably, I would say, a 28-35 point win for Oklahoma.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh, turnover battle. Okay.
BVS take over the defense. That's where we were at with.
Oh, that's where we were at. No, I was thinking of another question I was about to ask, but that's cool. We can go from there. BVS to take over the defense. Like I said, guys, I think that he's starting to take some of the reins back. I mean, he's still doing this. He's still calling some of the play. I mean, he's pretty much the signal caller. I mean, I wouldn't say signal caller, but he's still coordinating with the defense, doing all the rest of the stuff that a defensive coordinator would do. What's his name? Gosh, Roof is sitting up in the box.
I just don't like it when coordinators do that. I hate it when they do that. I get, like, if you're not the main coordinator, like the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, if you're sitting up there, that's fine, like the analyst or whatever. But I don't like the coordinators being up there. I think they need to be on the field with the players, right?
Yeah. Well, a guy like Levy, though, I'm not too upset about it because he's sitting there just watching the defense and seeing what they're trying to do. And he's able to make those calls and get everything down there. And then when you have a guy like Joe John Finley, that it has a lot of they've actually coached together before at what was that, Ole Miss? That was the stop. Well, he knows that offense, so he's able to be the signal caller and be the voice down there. So I think with Levy being up there, you saw it during that Kansas game. You just want to see more of it for him to be able to pick apart these defenses. Let's see. Who is this McDonald kid that everybody's talking about?
Caden McDonald. He's a top 400 defensive lineman. He came on a visit to Oklahoma not last year, this week against Kansas. I think this was his first visit here. It was an OV. And he's somebody that is currently crystal ball to go to Clemson. I don't think we're going to win that battle over Clemson. I do think, though, him taking an official visit is a good start, but I don't know. I don't think Caden McDonald is a consensus 5-star. I think he's a 5-star in some people's book, but I don't think he's a consensus 5-star across all the boards.
Man, I'm just excited to see how this team finishes. It's going to kill me this week that we don't play a game, but hey, bye week is a week to get better and do exactly what you need to do, which is just improve on what you were doing before you went into the bye week. There's some good games this week. Definitely going to watch that Oklahoma State, Okie Light and the Shorthorns. Definitely going to watch that game. There's a ton of good games on this weekend. If Texas would have lost last weekend, I would have had the most perfect weekend because Okie Light lost and USC lost. How USC lost that game, I have no idea. Caleb Williams made some plays out there. I was just like, Jesus. Oh man, if we had him, we probably undefeated right now. But
Who?
that's
Wait, if we have who?
If we had Caleb Williams.
Oh yeah, if we had Caleb Williams, well, I don't know, because what if Caleb Williams goes down, right, in the same scenario with DG, and you still have these backup
Well, you
quarterbacks. Now,
probably still have both of them there. I don't know if Bevel's even there.
no, you're probably right. So because DG did transfer here before Caleb actually officially transferred out. So yeah, you possibly still have both of them here. I don't know, man. Like, I know a lot of people are high, and I was kind of high on Caleb Williams at the beginning of the year, but I don't know. Like, he's pretty comparable to Dylan Gabriel right now in the way he's playing.
Oh my gosh, no what? Look,
No, seriously, go look at the first.
Look, I would say this right now. If the Heisman voting ended right now, Caleb Williams is probably my Heisman.
Oh, I don't know about that. CJ Stroud is up there.
CJ Stroud. I mean, who they played though? I mean,
Ohio
you can say
State?
the same thing about USC, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I think CJ Stroud is just a better quarterback overall than Caleb Williams this year. I think Caleb Williams has probably the most potential out of all the quarterbacks. But
yeah, he does.
I mean, I also don't think this is a year a quarterback wins it. I think, you have that Chase Bryce or the Chase Brown kid or whoever he is from Illinois. He's putting up a season. You still have Muhammad Ibrahim over in Minnesota. You have Blake Corum out in Michigan. You still have Bijan Robinson at Texas. I don't think this is a year a quarterback wins.
None of them have had any Heisman moments. Blake Corum, out of all of them, may have been close to that. But I'm telling you now, the kid is putting up numbers and he's doing crazy stuff out there. He just hasn't had a. We all knew they were going to lose to Utah. Let's just be real. I don't know. I don't know.
I just don't think Caleb Williams has had a Heisman moment. We haven't really seen a Heisman moment from anybody this year, right? Okay, let's just put that out there. We haven't seen a Heisman moment from anybody. Someone's going to do it. I just don't think it's going to be Caleb this year. I think Caleb is probably I think he's probably the Heisman favorite going into next season.
Hendon Hooker is a good. We just got to see how he finishes the season. That's actually a sleeper right there.
Because shoot, he beats Alabama, and then if he goes and beats Georgia, and that team's undefeated going into the playoffs, yeah, Hendon Hooker's your Heisman. Yeah. I didn't think about that because he's still got to play Georgia.
Hooker, he has the best win this season.
And he still has the best potential to get another win against Georgia. So, yeah, they definitely have a good shot at it. That's a game everybody needs to be watching this week. Tennessee in Knoxville against UT Martin. You're coming off an extremely emotional win against Alabama. You expect the Tennessee team, yes, to win, but probably they struggle a little bit more than they want to again in that game.
Nah.
I'm just saying that's a game that you could see a team struggle. There's a lot of good games this week. I'm looking at the list right now. Iowa, Ohio State in Columbus. You've got Clemson and Syracuse, 2 undefeated ACCs. You've got the Ole Miss LSU, which I actually kind of really like Ole Miss.
You said NC State and Clemson?
No, Syracuse and Clemson, both undefeated.
Come on, where's that game at? Clemson?
It's in Clemson, South Carolina.
Yeah, that's a blowout.
Hey, that Syracuse team. Hey, that Syracuse team usually gives Clemson some problems sometimes, and they've looked impressive this year. They've looked impressive this year
at home. At home.
Hey. Okay, so you got that Ole Miss LSU. Ole Miss looks really good this year. I think Jackson Dart
destroy LSU.
I think Jackson Dart is playing. I think Jackson Dart's playing pretty well. You've got the UCLA Oregon game, which I think is where game day's going. So you've got the undefeated UCLA and Oregon. Texas, Oklahoma State. You mentioned that one. You've got Tulane and Memphis. I think that's probably going to decide your American. And then you've got Mississippi State, Alabama, and Minnesota and Penn State. And then, you got Kansas State, TCU too. Man, we got another good slate of games this week.
We got a decent slate of games. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. My Sooner boys ain't playing though. But with that being said, PG, you got anything else to say?
Just be patient, guys. This recruiting class is going to show up. Just be patient. And if we lose Colton, it's fine.
We need a pass rush, BG. We got to have a pass rush. I
Listen,
think
we're
our
gonna have
Mason
one.
Thomas is going to be really good. I
No, he
think
is.
I think we got some things to put together. Tell everybody where they can find you at. Hold on, Chris. Think back to LSU at 19, and I don't think if Ewers was playing quarterback, they would miss a beat.
Is he talking about Texas?
Like, oh yeah.
Listen, this Texas team, I do agree. If they have Quinn Ewers, I think the offense looks completely different in those 2 games that they lost. But it's the same argument that I can make with Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, if Dylan Gabriel plays, you have no doubt that offense is scoring points. But you still got to put your defense out there, which hasn't played well. And same thing for Texas. In both of those games, their defense, I mean, okay, Alabama, they played well, but I also would expect if Texas is putting up points, Alabama's probably changing their game plan and putting up points as well. Now the Texas Tech game, your defense just didn't play well. It's as simple as that. Your defense just did not play well against Texas Tech. So you're probably still losing that game because I think Texas Tech still has a high-powered offense to be able to go out there and keep up with you. So they do look a little different, but I still think they probably have 2 losses at least.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall see.
Don't get me started.
Hey, I'm just mad that we couldn't get Quinn Ewers. I don't know if you watched my video, and I'll wrap it up on this one.
Are you good?
I made a video talking about the Oklahoma quarterback downfall, and I talked about how Lincoln Riley, while he was here, did not recruit like you see Alabama and Ohio State recruit, where they stack up 5-star talented quarterbacks in that room, which is what Texas is starting to do, right? And you saw it when he transferred, it just kind of depleted us. And, he would go out there and he would recruit one good guy a year. He'd throw an offer to Trevor Lawrence, lost him. Okay, we didn't get anybody that year. Throw an offer to Bryce Young. Oh, didn't get him. Guess we're going to go to somebody else. He missed out on Quinn Ewers. He missed out on Brock Vandergriff. So could you imagine if at one point we could have had Quinn Ewers, Brock Vandergriff, Caleb Williams, and Spencer Rattler? You're telling me we would have lost all 4 of those guys? Like, no.
I don't necessarily know. I think the difference with it all is just this right here. I don't necessarily know if Raleigh missed. If Raleigh usually, if he targets somebody, he's going to get that kid 100% of the time. I think Raleigh just had his system of how he wanted to go. He brought in some decent quarterbacks. I mean, Chandler and Mordecai, let's just be honest. I mean, they're still starters, right? So I don't necessarily think he missed on those guys. I just think that, the problem, well, I mean, you could say it about Ewers, but Ewers was in that even year. He just found himself in a hard spot. I mean, at the end of the day, Riley didn't miss on the kid. Riley passed on the kid because he had already recruited the kid, and then he was recruiting him pretty hard. And he was like, "Okay, let's go." They had talked, everything was fine. Dad and all of them wanted to. They were ready, and then boom, he commits to Texas. Then he decommits from Texas, and then he's calling Riley, all the rest of that stuff, and then boom, you get a commitment from Caleb Williams. And I mean, you're just like, hey, it kind of is what it is. I mean, the way I heard that it went down was that Raleigh didn't even return his call. They had called him up, and Raleigh didn't even return his call. But I mean, that's kind of one of the problems that you're seeing now with our quarterback room is the fact that we had a coach that would, I mean, and it worked. It worked. So you can't fault him. But after he left, you saw how depleted it left us.
He just couldn't develop very well, right? And that was one of the things I pointed out really well. And I think a lot of people look at him and go, "Oh, well, Caleb Williams, oh, you got 1 year, Caleb," and it still wasn't even that great. And when he had to go play good teams, he struggled. And so, I mean,
he's a true freshman, I mean,
he's a true freshman. But at the end of the day, Lincoln Riley missed on Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young. 2 guys that if the Oklahoma program had, you're talking potential national championship again. Both of those guys are, I wouldn't say, okay, let me phrase that. Bryce Young's a generational talent. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is that, but Trevor Lawrence is damn good. And that Clemson team is not what they were without Trevor Lawrence. So
a lot of people may disagree. I don't know, man. We had Rattler. We had all the talent that we needed. We just had a coach who half-assed in his last season as a play caller. to watch the part about Riley that pisses you off now is just watching him, how motivated he is to try to prove everybody wrong about the narrative about him, right? He's actually into the games. He's actually, you can see the emotion is back. Didn't really see all that much during that last year.
Because he knew he was going to USC last
Yeah.
year. There is no reason why in that against Oklahoma State, the biggest okay, outside of Texas, your biggest rivalry of the year, you're not screaming and throwing a fit when at the very end they missed 2 pass interference calls at the end there. You can't tell me he didn't know he was going to USC at that point. Like, he just sat there cool, calm, and collected like it was no big deal, like there were still 10 minutes on the clock. 2 pass interference calls, one on Mike Woods and one on Mario Williams in the end zone. Would have gave Oklahoma first down, and you potentially could have tried to run it in.
Yeah, I don't know.
OU wins that game, goes to the Big 12 championship game, potentially a playoff. He didn't want to go to the Big 12 championship, and he didn't want to go to the playoff.
He had to get out of Dodge because some people say that it was right then and there. That they're like, hey, you got to come up here. But he knew that he needed to go and recruit and get his class or try to get guys to come here so he could have this type of season.
Yeah, no. Which you got to give it to the man though. USC is looking pretty fine out there, and that's an impressive turnaround. Now, question is USC going to be what Oklahoma was? And I believe that's what you're going to see. So, but y'all can find me at the PG Show on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, or Google Podcasts. You guys can find me at the PG Show _. We're going to be recapping. I'll probably post a video tomorrow. We'll be recapping the OU Kansas game. We'll be talking a little bit of recruiting news. Definitely talking about that Alabama-Tennessee game because that was a ride. And let me tell you, I might have been at a wedding, but we were all watching that game. We were all cheering in the middle of downtown Oklahoma City. So stay tuned for that. I got a couple interviews coming up, and we might have a potential new sponsor with an NIL deal coming. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome news. Guys, definitely go follow PG. He's a friend of the show. He's a staple of the show. Honestly, he's our guy. A lot of great content over there. So definitely check out his show at the PG Show. With that being said, guys, I'm Chris with a K, Chris Griffin. This has been the Horns Down Podcast. Everybody put your horns down always. And we're out of here.